Hello and welcome to the BMS podcast number 53. What you should do is at this exact moment, pause it, go to bigmoneystylistnow.com and look at this disgusting drink Danielle has.
Okay, I got these things for my water. It's collagen infused, and it has 9 grams of protein and 10 grams of collagen, and it's supposed to help your hair. But they said to add it to any drink, and it literally looks like a Logie in my Starbucks.
Imagine curdled milk that won't uncurdle.
I think it's
she's
mixing.
She's picking it up, making it look like a little worm. I about threw up on all of our equipment.
Look, there it is. There it is, Ani.
Oh my God. Please.
Okay,
I beg of you, go to bigmoneystylistnow.com and look at this disgusting thing she's
Okay,
drinking.
so it turns out if you put it in a bottle of water and you shake it.
I don't believe her.
Ani's like, what is in your drink? And I was about to ready to take a big sip, and she's like, what is in your drink? I'm like, just a big chunk of collagen.
No, guys. If she tries to suck that up in a straw, it's going to get stuck. And it's, like when you have a milkshake and you're like trying so hard to make it go through the straw.
Yeah,
oh
except for it's a big chunk of collagen.
It looks like a worm you brought back from Mexico.
I didn't. But you know what's so funny is I feel like I try to add healthy stuff to my drinks, and this is actually just water with strawberries in it. It looks like something else. And a client of mine was taking these, and I noticed her hair literally, the density looked better, and she's like, oh, I've been drinking at least one of these a day, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try them. And I don't know.
What does it taste like?
Okay, so it says unflavored,
but it tastes like worm or loogie?
No, when you put it in just water, it tastes a little bit like it just kind of has a gross taste. It's not like you can get it down, but it's not like you're like, that's tasty. Unflavored, it's definitely not unflavored.
Cool. Danielle's drinking someone else's spit, guys.
I'm just anyways,
So-
it's good. I'll let you guys know. I'll let you know if my hair increases in density and if I can find something better to mix it in. So let's get started.
How about anything that is not a clear container?
I need
That's what will be
just
better.
a firm shaker is what I need.
Oh my gosh. So
okay.
I'm super stoked. We have hit not only our year in the podcast,
Right?
but BMS University. Ho ho!
Yes.
I have spent 4 days doing 100 interviews.
Oh.
And we are not even halfway there yet.
I know, because we're doing 250.
Yes, so I'm stoked. So for the students to pass the initiation stage to get into BMS Mastermind, because we would completely revamp the program.
Right.
And I've been talking, because I literally called every single student personally. I talked to every single one. And what I really like is that, well, I'll tell you, first off, I didn't like that the students were crying, but a lot of them just had tears.
Oh, okay.
Tears because they were telling me, they're like, I didn't ever believe I could do this. I didn't think I could actually make it through, because they had to do 30 mannequin heads, 4 clients, 30 videos, pictures.
Let's break down the hours for that. What do you think that would take somebody? I was trying to count how long 30 doll heads would take me, and I'm super fast, and it was at least 30 consistent hours.
Oh, for sure.
So, your hands are going to be, raw.
Well, you have to think, if we can plow through one row in 30 minutes, we're at 15 hours.
Right.
And we're fast.
Right.
We're very, very fast.
But
and the students aren't.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably double that. It's probably 60 hours. But if you think about it, when you go to hair school, you're required a certain amount of hours. I don't know if you knew this, but Utah, when I went, they charged. They made you do 2,000 hours.
2,000?
2,000 hours. We are
God.
we are just extra special, so we got to do more hours. And how many, most places are
1,500.
Yeah,
California
most places,
16.
most places are that or lower. I've even heard of some places of 1,200. Yeah, I went to 2,000 hours.
You're extra special, Danielle.
Yeah, yes. So when I think about 30 hours, I'm like, meh. I'm like, oh, might take you a month. Just do a little bit every day,
Well, what I thought was so funny is so many of the students were all like, dude, honestly, they're like, I wanted to quit. I wanted to give up. I didn't want to do it. When I heard 30 rows, they were like, ugh. Have Ani and Danielle, have they lost their minds? They're crazy. And then they were just like, well, fuck it. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Because they had an option, but they chose in. And I think that was so cool. And some girls even told me, they were like, I cried, because there were 4 stages they had to finish. I cried every time I finished a stage, because I just didn't even believe I could do it.
Right.
And that, to me, I'm just like, oh, I love that. So let's even talk about what they're doing, because they really, plowed through in a month, which is amazing.
I think a lot of artists too. I mean, you had unlimited time to do this, but I think a lot of people wanted to get in the new year. They were like, okay, I'm ready. I've just like for me, I'm always like, if I start something, I'm like, I'm just gonna knock it out, because if I let it like slowly dwindle, I'll just eventually like be like, man, I'm over it. You know what I mean? So it's like it's good to just like knock it out. And I think I would agree with like anytime you do something that you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this, or I don't know if I can, and then when you get to the end, there is such an emotional high. You're like, holy shit, like I did it. And it's funny because I've gotten to that place several times in my career, just like being overwhelmed and overworked. And stylists, this isn't a new feeling for stylists. Like stylists are always overwhelmed and overworked and taking on too much work. And but they don't really, they wait till they get to that breaking point where they're just like, whereas like if you told them like, hey, here's how much work you have to do, they're like already exhausted. And then when they get done, there's just this like emotional high is all I can say.
It was for them. Yeah, it really was an emotional high. And it was just really a sense of, oh my God, I did this.
Right.
One woman, I was even talking to her today, literally just like an hour before I came here. And she was telling me, she's like, Ani, I would wake up every day. She's like, I have a pretty like small baby. I'd wake up, take care of my baby, go to work, come back, make dinner, put my baby to bed, and stay up till like 1 or 2 doing the doll head. She's like, because I wanted in. She's like, I wanted to just do it. Right. And then when I told her, I'm like, hey, I think you're a great fit. She was like, oh my God. So honestly screaming and yelling, which was really cute for me. But it's just so cool to see them so proud of everything they've accomplished, right. And knowing it's not like they paid money and went to a class or they just showed up. Like they
were required to do the work.
Yeah, they earned being here. Like they earned that spot. So let's really talk about just do it. Just go.
Yeah. I've been actually like talking a ton about that in my Instagram posts, my blog posts. I think that, and I don't know if it's a woman thing or whatnot, but like we kind of get to this place where we're just feeling like stagnant or whatnot, and we want to, or we're overworked. So you're either like stagnant or you're like, I don't know, kind of bored, whatever, or you're just like burnt out, overworked, and you know in your life at that point, like 1 or 2 things need to change. Like you want to like increase business or decrease business, but both places can be really scary to be in. And so a lot of times people, don't know where to start, or they start like brain scheming like this like way far out path, and then they immediately get overwhelmed and tell themselves a story of I can't. And it's so funny because you can't. I always tell people, I'm like, you can't go from A to Z. Like, you're not going to start at Z. I used to always think, oh my God, I wish I just did like a celebrity's hair. Or I wish I just need my big break in hair. I just need my big break. Or I almost got casted on Housewives of Orange County. And I was like, oh, that'll be it. That'll be it. But the funny thing is like, if you have opportunity and you're not ready, like nothing's going to come of it. And so I always tell people, I'm like, don't get overwhelmed and think where you want to be and then like retreat back. You just literally have to start with the small stuff. And I always tell people like, guarantee inside of your business right now, there's like 2 or 3 things that you can change or implement. And I know we talked this on a few podcasts ago about just like going over the facts. And if you don't know things that you need to change, that's one thing that you can do is go over the facts. And every time you go over the facts, there's always like, oh yeah, this could be better and this could be better. Start there. And then you do that. And then like you just keep going from A to B to C to D. And Garrett and I did a podcast together, and I said one time, I'm like, the power is in B. I'm like, because that means you started, you went, you go, you start. And so I would challenge all of you guys out there not to overthink it, because you'll get overwhelmed and oftentimes tell yourself a story of like, I can't become that person. I'm not that. And if you just start something, you never know with consistency where it'll actually take you.
I mean, and even honestly, for a minute, even I got overwhelmed when I'm like, okay, we're accepting 250 students. I'm like, oh my God, that's 250 interviews. I literally sat there. I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to do it. And then I was like, okay, just start. Okay, just start booking it. Just start doing it. So I was messaging people left and right, back and forth. I mean, it took hours to do. And then I have a giant whiteboard in my office, and it's literally 3 massive columns. Every 10 minutes for 8 hours, I had another interview. And this was for 3 days straight. Like I was plowing through going. And someone had walked into my office at once, and they were like, what? I was like, don't worry about it, man. But once I got started, it really didn't seem so daunting. Yeah. And then once I started with the interviews, really like touching base with literally every single student.
When you start to know people, like you start to know the questions to ask, you start to hear their responses, you know exactly what they're thinking and where they're going, and you can almost like determine quicker, like you're going to be a great fit and this program is going to be great for you. And that's what's so cool is like when you have repetition of even doing interviews on the phone, you know what to look for in people and who's going to get the best results inside of our program.
And what I think is so cool is having already interviewed 100 people, I haven't turned anybody down because really by the time they've gone through and done all of this work and now they're talking to me, they're not like, I mean, it might work. They're like committed. They're
like, I'm too far.
They're like, I'm so far in. I love it. But that's what I thought was so cool. Do you want to hear the craziest story? I had an interview because I started them on a Thursday. I had one at 10:10 in the morning. It was my second interview. And she texted me the night before and said, Ani, I'm going into labor, but I think I can still call you tomorrow. I was like, what? I was like, no. I was like, absolutely not. She goes, I mean, call me and I'll answer as long as I'm not pushing baby out. I'm like, no, I will not. I'm like, or how about this?
That's commitment.
I'm like, I'm going to save your spot in Mastermind until we can talk, but I will not be calling you. She's like, okay, how about, she's like, I'll text you and let you know how I am. I'm like, girl, this is on you. But
has she texted you yet?
She texted me that next morning at 7:30.
Did she have her baby?
Yeah, she had her baby that night. Text me. She goes, hey, I can talk to you tonight. I'm getting released from the hospital. I'm like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm like, no. But for real, like, I'm saving your spot. You're good. She's like, no. Let's talk.
Yeah, that's
so I called her.
Though.
I'm like, how you doing? She's like, I'm tired. I'm like, well, you
just push the baby out.
You brought life into the world. I can only imagine. But hearing that, I'm like, she is literally giving life, like bringing a life, a human being that she will care for, her first baby into the world. And one of her big concerns was,
she was pushing out and she's like, God damn it, I'm going to call you.
Don't lose my spot. But that blew my mind. But that also told me the level of like what we're doing and how important this is just, it's honestly been blowing my mind for like 2 weeks now, which I'm in love with it. I think it's so cool.
I think it'll be awesome. I think the results have been awesome. And even those stylists who have chosen not to stay with our program, like, hey, like you go do your thing for a bit. And like, if you want to come back, like our education is always evolving based on what we think is going to be best for the student. And I have no doubt in my mind, like 2019, we're kind of like stabilizing and building a stronger foundation. But if in 2020, I feel like with a stronger foundation, like shit's just gonna go sideways and upside down, and like I'm excited to see where it goes. And I'm like so like, when you do your 30 doll heads, and you guys can all imagine how you feel like, oh, I did it. Like even for me in my business, every year that goes by, I have that sense of accomplishment where I'm like, oh, I did it, and I'm so deep in. I'm like, I have no other choice but to continue to carry it to the level in which I believe it can go to. So it's like, but it's cool to see like students have such a level of commitment. And like I said, if you're a past student, like we love you and we wish you the best. And if you need to take a year off, great. I've had students do that in the past. I had some way back in BMS that started, and then they came back to my shadowing program. They came back and said, hey, I want back in. I'm like, cool. The only way back in is a class. So just kind of like do whatever you feel like you need to do. But just know, like, we're going to continue to do what we do. We don't have time for drama. We don't have time for shit talking. And I would encourage all of you doing your own thing to keep the same mindset. Like, don't let drama suck you in. Don't have time for shit talking. Use MBR as a tool. Have it work for your clients. Have it work for your business. And just kind of go on with your business how you think you should go on.
And what I think is so crazy, I've lived here, let's see, October, November, December. I've lived here for 15 months, barely over a year. Right. And I think back to, like, I think back to everything I've done in this year. And sometimes I sit here like, how did I do this? Because even I think back to, because I've been looking at all the BMS convention. Oh my God.
I really want to drink. Hold on.
Okay, so I'm going to look this way. So I go back and I think back to all of I've been looking at the BMS convention videos and everything that we've been doing. And I look back at my first time, like really on stage in front of a bunch of people. And I was like, wow, it's not bad, but that wasn't great. But
who is that?
Really? And then I look at, currently, after BMS Con 3, it was an entire year in between. It was 16 intensives, another convention. It was so much. And I'm like, you are a different person. And I had zero training. Yeah. It wasn't that Garrett or you sent me to a class and you're like, here's how you
had a level of commitment.
Yeah, always. You and Garrett were just like, okay, Ani, you're going to go do this. Get on stage. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to totally throw up. All right. I'm just, hi, guys. And it was just, and I think back to December of 2017, the first BMS convention, and then November 2018, a year later at the third one. And I'm like, getting on stage, I didn't think twice. Talking and laughing and joking, I didn't think twice. Telling my own personal stuff, I didn't think twice. And I'm like, that is just, it was a hell of a year. Yeah. A year of being constantly uncomfortable, conflict, collision, everything in between, like so much love, like so much happened in 2018. But it
Don't you think when you see somebody that you haven't seen in a while and you can just tell they've gone through some shit, like there's like some wisdom in their eyes and you're like, good for you, man. Like,
yes.
Good for you.
I just watching the videos from BMS Con 3 and seeing me and seeing you on stage, like I can think back to everything we've ever done.
Think
and
about
like,
even the first convention, like compared to like this last one, like only a year apart. And I was like, oh, we were a different company and different human beings in 1 year. And what became like so scary, like our first convention, we had 175?
It's like 150
and we were all like, oh God, we're all going to puke on stage. It's going to get ugly.
This room is huge.
And like literally where I was like, my hand's like shaking. I'm like, I can't do it. And I remember it was good. And then this next time I'm like, there were still points where I was kind of nervous, but it was like that much better. And the room was full, like double the size. And so I have no doubt. Well, I know, like actually we're starting ticket sales to our BMS Con.
Soon.
Is it 3 or 4?
It's number 4.
Number 4.
BMS Con 4, November 2019. Dates are coming, but tickets are coming soon.
Tickets are coming, I think, the end of January, and we do have a quite a big waiting list, but that doesn't mean like everybody's gonna like get into the class, but we're going from 300 students to 1,200 students. So if that's not a big jump, like I don't know what is. And so I have no doubt, like you can't, and this kind of goes back to like, remember when I was saying, I'm like, you can't like be given a big break when you're not ready. Like you can't just be thrown into an audience of like 2,000 people.
Could you imagine if BMS Con 1, we tried 1,000 people?
Oh my God.
I would have pooed my pants. I would have, something like in your drink would have fallen out on stage.
Well, it would have, you wouldn't be ready. Do you know what I mean?
God, no.
Like I'll see people on big stages or trainers or whatever, but you don't just get there overnight. Like you have to become that person. You have to become that character, like whatever it is. And all of a sudden, like your new norm is like way more comfortable, but you can't get a big break if you're not ready for it. So everybody wants like this tons of opportunity and I just need a bigger following and I just need to do so-and-so's hair and I just need this. And you're like, why? You're not that good yet. So why don't you simmer down and focus on the basics? And there's so much power in the basics. And that's why even like with the whole 30 doll heads, like if you can't consistently do the small things, and I said it before already on the podcast, if you can't do the small things, you can't expect to do big things in your business. So don't have a goddamn ego about it and just do the fucking work.
And on top of that, I think the biggest story people tell themselves is, well, I want to wait till I'm prepared. I want to wait till I'm prepared. I want to wait till I'm prepared. You know, the one thing I will never in my life forget. This was BMS Con 1. And Garrett was like, okay, Ani, we're going to start graduation. I want you to talk to the pod leaders and set the frame like this. I'm like, okay, sure. So I went out on stage. I clearly word vomited a bunch of garbage. And Garrett was like, okay, pulled me back off stage. And he's like, what the hell was that? I was like,
when was this?
You and Val had walked up and I put my hand up to you guys like, because he was like, what was that? I was like, I don't know. And that was honestly the first time I felt like I was in trouble by Garrett. So I'm immediately crying. And he's like, this is what you just did. Like, why would you have said that? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, no.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I remember the words he said. I remember the look on his face. I remember you coming up to my right, Ben Narcy was to my left. I remember everything.
Girl, get her!
Yeah, and Garrett was like, okay. He's like, it's cool. You're not in trouble. It's fine. Take a deep breath. Reel yourself in. Go back out and fix it. So I'm literally crying backstage because I royally effed this up to reel in my tears like a madman to then go back out on stage to fix what I jacked up. But you know what? That's how I learned.
Yeah.
I never fucked that up again.
Yeah.
Why? I was not remotely prepared going out there, but you and Garrett have always been so incredibly graceful about giving me an opportunity to literally just try something. And if I fuck it up, Garrett has always said, he's like, Ani, there is nothing you can say or do that I cannot fix if you fuck it up. I'm like, okay.
But you're good about like, we give you something, we're like, Ani, you're going to do this. You're like, okay. And you but like, yeah, you're not like, I don't think I can. Like, even if you are nervous, you put on like a really good poker face. And I know no matter what you're going to do, like, you're just going to go up and like, I don't know, but that's, I just know you're going to like give it you know?
Thank you.
And sometimes I'm like you said, sometimes you're like, oh shit, get her off stage. But I don't remember that. So I guess it wasn't too big.
Good. Then let's not remember. Because that was truly the first time, not that I was in trouble, because Garrett was like, I'm not mad, Ani. He's like, but this is what you did. And then he's like, do you see it? I'm like,
but you know what? You went up and you did it, which is a lot more than more people would do. Do you know what I mean? If somebody was given the opportunity, they're like, get up there right now, and they had like nothing prepared, nothing to speak, they'd literally be like, I can't. And they'd get up there and be like, and nothing would come out, and they'd be really nervous. You were like, I got this.
I'm like, okay, I tried. And guess what? I failed miserably, but I don't really see it as failure. I just learned something.
Right.
And then the next 2 conventions, the next 16 intensives, I never did that again. I never had that problem again.
It's funny. I was watching this movie and I don't even remember what it's called, but there was this girl that got fired from her big internship in New York. And anyway, she wanted to be a writer and she's sitting there crying and feeling all sorry for herself. And her roommate comes up to her and she's like, what's the matter? Why are you crying? And she's like, oh, I'm trying to write this article and it just sucks really bad. And her roommate's like, yeah, you've never written an article. You're going to suck really bad. So why don't you get off your ass, write your first sucky article, and then write another sucky article, and then get better. And she was like, and then it was funny, like towards the end, they're all cheering. She's like, I'm going to write a sucky article. And so it was funny. I even, today in a blog post, I said, like, listen, you're going to suck. Like anything anything new you choose to do, whether it's a color technique, a teaching technique, an extension technique, a marketing technique. I can't tell you how many marketing fails I've seen of like even students where I'm like, well, that's awkward and painful to watch, but I'm so proud of you for putting yourself out there. And I know because
you should
I
see
was
my
there
awkward
too.
and painful.
Yeah, I was like, everybody has this awkward and painful moment, and the fact that you're doing it like says a lot. Like you're like, good for you. You know what I mean? So you can't really, like I said in my post, I'm like, be willing to fail and be excited about it because that means you started, and that means you were willing to put yourself out there, and that means guess what? You can take what you did, look at it, be like, oh my God, I look like a total dumbass. Take what you don't like about it, improve, and try it again. Even when I first started doing videos on something as simple as YouTube, and I've said this on a lot of shows before, I was like, hi, this is shampoo, and I was like too professional, and it came out very robotic and non-genuine and really weird. And so then I was like, okay, I don't like that about me, and that's not how I am in person. And so I started like getting on camera and being like, hey guys, this is shampoo. I don't know why I fucking like it. I think it makes your hair soft. And people started to relate to me and like me because I feel like I was just being me and pretending like I was talking to a friend or a girlfriend and being like, hey, this is what I like. You should try it. And the more I did that, the better I got at communicating a message and being on camera. And so people will say, like, even with marketing and being on camera, oh, you're natural. I'm like, go back to the original YouTube days and then tell me I'm a natural because it doesn't. It only comes with reps like anything else.
Yes.
Speaking, training, everything.
Everything is reps. The very, very, very first videos I filmed for BMS as a student back in 2016.
I saw those.
It took, yes, I know. It took one of my videos for my funnel, this like website I took 13 tries, and I was really proud of the end when I was like, nailed it. And then Garrett watched it and he's like, Ani, you did a great job. I'm like, thanks. I redid it 13 times. And he looked at me and he's like, you want to know what happens when you do stuff like that? He's like, Ani, when you try to be perfect, you come off looking like a fraud. And I was like,
yeah. Well, I remember when I saw your first funnel, I was like, I don't experience Ani that way at all. And I was like, and at the time you had purple hair, and I was like, I'm trying to take her serious, but like, this is not her. Like, you were like, and then please reach out to me.
Yeah. I was so professional.
Yeah.
Very, and I feel like naturally I'm a very articulate person just because I read a lot and Lord knows I talk a lot. But inside of that, like, I was just like, okay, be professional. And I was like, hello. Welcome to my salon in St. Louis, Missouri. And now I look back and I'm like, why are you blinking that way? I'm like, what's up with your hands? Because now, and you know, students
You're like twitching.
I'm like, and students ask me all the time, they're like, but Ani, like, they say the same. They're like, you're just a natural in front of the camera. I'm like, no, I've just done it. Even like our studio has, like the room we're in right now has 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have like 5 cameras in here. It's just normal now.
Yeah.
And our studio upstairs actually has like 7 cameras.
Like if you were new to this coming in, you'd be like, oh my God, 700 million people are going to watch this.
You would just sit here like
this
going,
you'd be so nervous. Like, and now we're just like, it is what it is.
And they ask me, they say, well, what do you think about when you do it? And I'm like, honestly,
you just be you.
I'm like, I feel like I'm just talking to myself. And turns out myself thinks I'm funny. So no matter what I say, it's going to be great, guys. And when I said it, they were like, you're being serious. I'm like, yeah, all I see is my reflection. So I'm like, she's hilarious. Good for you.
I envision that I'm like, I'm talking to like a class full of students or like colleagues or whatever. Because for me, I'm like, it helps me like say a message a little bit better, but it's not very nerve-wracking because you're not actually here. So, but I do like pretend that I'm like talking to an audience, which you are. It just comes out a week later.
Yeah, definitely. So I think even those little things of just not psyching yourself out, that has always let me just go, just do something, which is why getting on stage, it was slightly daunting, but I think I was more so like amped because I saw, okay, if I can do this, here's where we go. Right. If I can pull this off, here's my next step. If I can do this, here's where I go next. And that for me was exciting versus like daunting and terrifying because I wasn't looking like 15 steps ahead. We always knew, we said, one day our conventions will be 500 people, it'll be 500 people, it'll be 1,000 people. And we were like, no, whoa, that's so much. But now, like, we went to 360 some, and now we're about to do like 1,200.
Yeah.
So I know now it can be done. And having that big goal in mind was terrifying, which is why I wanted to go to WarriorCon.
Well, you almost think too, like you think of like, you know, that many people and you're like, that's the end goal. And then you get there and you're like, no, like your bubble is opened up, your vision is opened up so much more. And you're like, whoa, there's opportunity here. There's opportunity here. And it, again, goes back to like, you can't see opportunity unless you're ready. So you have to like take each step as it comes, and you'll figure out things as you go. And so stop trying to have like a map of how you're going to do it, because for me, it's so funny. Garrett used to make fun of me all the time. He's like, you don't read books, you don't study, you don't do this. Like how, like you just like know shit. And I'm like, I am very much like a quick start. Like I am like the person that's like that little, I imagine like a toddler walking around and like they fall off the same chair 17 times and then they're like, well shit, I shouldn't get on that chair anymore.
What a
like
terrible idea.
Like that's how I learn. Like I just kind of jump in and then I just learn things like that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think I'm different than a lot of women in that way, because I tend to not overthink things. And when I do overthink things, I'm like, nope, shut it off. You're like thinking too much, just go. And so I would challenge all of you guys out there. What are you overthinking in your life right now? And what are some areas where you can just go?
And that's really, I feel, 2019 for us, for BMS, for us as a salon, for us as like partners inside of BMS. Like, I really feel like this is our just go year. Mm-hmm. Like, this is it. All the reins are off. All the stress is off. The chaos is off.
Just like let go.
It's all gone. And we are like plowing forward full force ahead.
Right.
And guys, I know it can be hard. Like, trust me, I look at my past year. I literally wrote an entire thing about this past year, and just like everything that brought me to be who I am today. And some things were massive, but most were little things that happened. And then that caused something else, and that caused something else, which is why mapping out and planning doesn't work. You can be going down your path, but a tree might fall. Okay. Right. Well, then you just course correct and you change things. And that's maybe then you find a more beautiful field or a better path or whatever. But you can never find anything beautiful, amazing. You'll never find your place if you don't start doing something.
Well, and don't be so stuck on a plan that if that tree falls in your path that you're like, see, it's not for me. I'm just going to retreat back in my hole. There's always going to be a different path, and maybe consider that tree fell there on purpose for you to take a left instead of a right, and that you taking a right was the wrong path. And even though that looked like the right path, you were actually supposed to take a left because there was still more that you needed to learn. So, and unfortunately, like life works in challenges. So even if you don't want to take a left and it looks like that's going into like a dark, scary forest, that's maybe where you're supposed to go. Because I can promise you, like, you'll figure a lot of things out along the way. So kind of keep that in mind too. You hear, it's so funny because I actually have started reading more. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and everything's teaching the same damn thing. But based on where you're at in life and your growth and where you're at, like you'll hear it different from each particular person. So hopefully when you're listening to this podcast, like you're receiving a lot of value out of it, whether you're in our program or you're not in our program. And whether you strive to do extensions or you don't strive to do extensions, know that I feel confident in what I'm doing and my purpose and my role inside of our industry. And I hope that you know your purpose and passion inside of our industry as well if you are a hairstylist. And if not, 2019, we'd love to invite you to our BMS convention in November and just kind of see more what we're about.
So thank you guys for listening to episode number 53. I can hardly believe it. Year number 2 of the BMS podcast. So if you want to see what we're doing, see Danielle's disgusting loogie
so scared to drink this.
Go to bigmoneystylistnow.com. I literally cannot look at, oh my God. Ew. Oh God. That might be the loogie she's munching on now. That's so gross.
It's chewy, but I like it.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you for listening to us.
Gives you good hair.
And I encourage you to think about where in your life do you need to just go. Like maybe just go and throw your drink away because you know it's not good anymore. So thank you guys for listening. I'm super stoked for this year, and I cannot wait to see what you guys create, what you do, and what the one thing is that you know you need to just go with.